All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out to the first of its kind Ingham County Solarize. So we run GLREA, Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. We run these programs statewide, but this is the first ever county-wide program. So there's always been a lot of confusion about who's eligible. So we decided to go from a county approach. And thank you to Morgan and her team for partnering on this event. This is also the first of its kind where we're targeting and allowing our discount, group buy purchase discount, to businesses, places of worship, and nonprofits. So we'll get more into the weeds there. Residents are still eligible. We have old recordings for residents. So we also will be making this presentation available as well as the slides after this event. So be sure to sign in from the QR code here. We'll get it out to you, share with your friends and family, and let's get these purchases up so we can get the biggest discount possible. So my name is Marshall Cloudeau. I serve as the project director of Michigan Solar Communities with Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. GLREA is a nonprofit that's been around for over 30 years. We prioritize advocacy, education, and the expansion of renewable energy through installation. We have individual business members, student members, and business members. GLREA, it caught my attention when I was investigating a 100% renewable energy plan in 2015. Is that at the end of every tunnel I dug, I always ran into people from GLREA. We have a very active board, and thank you for Dennis Marvin for turning out today from our board of directors. It's a volunteer board, but there's a lot of experts that have been in the fight for a long time. This is a great graphic that I'd love to share. Thank you to the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. It's a little hard to see from where you're at, but remember, you'll get these slides later. So this is the energy mix of Michigan. Granted, this is our 2021 numbers, but they really haven't changed that much. So as you can see, solar is that very thin yellow line at the top. The mission here today is to transition away from fossil fuels. We know the planet's getting warmer. We know fossil fuel energy is only going to keep costing more money. So we need to transition to solar, hydro, wind, geothermal, and there will be some nuclear in Michigan's energy mix. You can see how small that yellow line is. We really got to ramp up solar expansion. So that's where the businesses, the nonprofits, the places of worship, they play a huge part of this. We can really increase our carbon off the grid by targeting these institutions. And the residents play a big part too. So getting our neighbors signed up, getting ourselves signed up, all part of the transition here. One thing I like to point out is this gray over here, the rejected energy. So fossil fuels waste a lot of energy. If you have a baseline of energy, you have to go higher because of the rejected energy. So from the long distance transmission lines, you have a 20% loss. So as we transition to solar, wind, geothermal, we're really condensing that energy and keeping it more local. That's a huge part of the energy transition. GLREA spent 3-4 years developing a Michigan Solar Communities Guidebook. So on this slide, you can download the guidebook here or at our website, glrea.org. I also have physical copies if people want to get mailed one, but that's a great resource. It's over 100-page document. And I like to say it's everything under the sun. Whatever your questions about solar, it's going to be in this guidebook. We really did a good job developing it. And we'll be developing even a further one, edit as the next year or two. One thing that's not included that I'm really passionate about is agrovoltaics and the pairing of solar with farming. There's tons of studies, tons of developments happening where you can partner not only shade for animals, but also increase crop yields through strategic water management, reduce some of the heating challenges, and use unused land for solar development. There's a lot of bad solar development, but there's a lot of good solar development that can partner with farms, and it provides a revenue stream for farmers looking to transition their farms. So Solarize Michigan, what is Solarize? Solarize is a group buy purchase. It's peer-to-peer, neighbors, friends coming together to get a group buy discount. The idea is that when we combine installations in a similar geographic area, working with reputable companies like Absolute Solar, who's our installer here tonight, one of the best in the business. I do this work statewide, and I can't say enough good things about Absolute. They're in it for the right reasons, and they show up, and it's a quality product. And so I'm really fortunate that we have Absolute right here. They're from Lansing, born and bred company here, local team. And so it's really, we're lucky to have them in our neighborhood here. These are the active communities for Solarize. The program started in Ann Arbor in 2022. And then in 2023, Ann Arbor reached out to GLREA to try to expand this program statewide. And so that's what I've been doing for the last year and 1 month. We now operate a little more cities that are listed on here, but up to 14 different cities, and it's really growing. There's new people reaching out every week to do a new Solarize program. And excitingly to share, we're one of the first Solarize UP in September. So the UP has some of the highest energy prices in the nation. And so working on Solarize UP has really been a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to getting that one off the ground. So now I'm going to kick it over to Audrey Whaling. Audrey's a great leader, and I'm really thankful that she's here today. She's working on great work with the 2030 district. So we're going to find out more what that's all about. And yeah, thank you so much, Audrey, for being a partner.
Thanks, Mark. I was not prepared for a microphone, so I talk with my hands, and apologies about that. And I have way too many slides, so I'm going to probably skim over most of them. But my name is Audrey Whaling. I'm the program manager for the Lansing 2030 district. Outside of the folks who I've met before or who have attended one of these presentations before, does anybody know what a 2030 district is? I saw one hand. Okay, I'm gonna call on you in 1 moment. So, okay. You're gonna drive. Oh man, this is gonna be confusing. Oh no, I was here. Okay, sorry. Really quick, we're just gonna talk about what a 2030 district is, why it is important in Lansing, what the benefits are, why you should join. Slow down. Thank you for that feedback. And some education and resources that are available for you and how to get involved. Really quickly, I wouldn't be here without the fantastic support of these lovely groups of people, and we have a strong partnership with the city of Lansing. And these are slides indicating that we really appreciate these people and the support that they give us, and more of that. So, before you proceed, so can you tell me what a 2030 district is?
Challenge, right? By 2030, by a certain amount.
Yeah, thank you. So, in a way, the Architecture 2030 Challenge created a framework for cities to help reduce their carbon emissions. We in the city of Lansing are working to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030. That's the name, and accelerate to zero by 2040. The cool thing is that this is a national plus 2 districts in Canada framework that we get to implement on a local level. And so we're all working together on a national level, but also on a community level. So we're focusing on reducing building energy use, transitioning to renewables, conserving water, reducing water consumption, reducing water waste, as well as reducing carbon emissions through transportation. And by doing all of that, reducing emissions in the built environment, we can create healthier communities, put more money in your pocket, put more money back into the community, generate economic growth, generate community vibrancy, and overall create a high-performing building district. These are the kind of primary groups that we work with. So we're speaking primarily with property owners, property managers, community stakeholders, houses of worship, nonprofit organizations, working alongside the city, as well as working with different professional partners like solar installers or engineers or consultants. But really, we are a network, and our goal is to be the fabric in between the nodes of you all. So while some of you may not be a property owner or property manager, how many of you maybe own a business? How many of you know a business owner? How many of you patronize a business? Hey, so we're all connected in some way, shape, or form, and it will take a little bit from all of us to get across the finish line. And while reducing our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030 seems a little bit daunting, our baseline is based on some data in 2003, and we're actually making really good progress. And the other piece of this is that when you reduce energy, you save money. And that's good for everyone. As I mentioned, the 2030 districts are a network across the nation. There are 26 districts. Lansing was the last and final district just established in May 2022. My goodness, I'm up to a time right there, May 2025. And we are fortunate enough to be leading the states with 4 districts in Michigan. We're tied with Pennsylvania. So we just got to keep working there. And the really neat thing is that we get to collaborate with Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Detroit, learn from each other, connect with each other. So I'm working with a couple of groups right now to help understand what a house of worship best practice group might look like in Lansing, because I know there's a lot of interest in that. There's an established one in Detroit and an established one in Ann Arbor. So how can we learn from that and bring those best practices here to Lansing to help the congregations here to move forward towards their energy goals? Why Lansing? Some of you may or may not know, the city of Lansing has a sustainability action plan that Marshall helped co-chair, spearhead, lead the charge of, and Morgan and Ingham County are working on their sustainability action plan. And a lot of the goals in there are very related to the work that we have. So we sort of see ourselves as an extension and support of the work. So there's the plan. We are here to help move that forward. We are here to help you accomplish your goals. And I'll talk about that in a second. So just a couple of reasons to join. Obviously, working towards state goals. Obviously, we all want to be good stewards of the environment and reduce our emissions and our energy use overall. We also would like to uplift and highlight the amazing work that's already happening in the community. As I mentioned, we're sort of the thread between all of the nodes. Every time I talk to someone, there's a very cool project, cool story that we want to uplift to the community to spotlight the work that you are all doing, because that's really where the success is. There's a lot of learning that can happen peer to peer. We want to help facilitate that. We want to help further the state of Michigan's goals as well. And if you are like me, when you first thought about maybe measuring your energy, because if you don't measure it, you can't necessarily track it or reduce it. So we want to help you measure your energy use so that you can reduce it. If you start to think about that, and gosh, that sounds like the Matrix to me, or I'm seeing all the codes floating down the screen that looks like the Matrix, like we are here to help you. We will hold your hand. We will help you understand what that means. What does tracking energy even mean? How do I even reduce it? Or perhaps you're far along in your journey and you just need a little extra support. That's where we come in and we can help you do that. I touched on some of these, but some of the benefits of joining the 2030 district are access to educational resources. We've done a series of webinars. We have different tools. We have different connections to experts. We have our partners involved in the 2030 district already who can help identify funding opportunities or potential rebates or incentives to help, again, you move towards where you're going. Shameless plug a little bit here. Our organization also offers an automated benchmarking service. So if, again, you're thinking of energy use and it's looking like the Matrix to you, you can engage with us. It is a fee for service, and we work with you in the utility, and then we can help get it set up so it automatically tracks your energy for the next year. You don't even have to worry about it. So if that sounds attractive to you, let me know. Get you set up. Just a quick highlight, these are the building owners and businesses and community stakeholders as well as professional stakeholders that are currently engaged. So wanted to spotlight this to show you that it really is a community effort. There's a little bit happening for everyone. We want to continue to grow this group of folks. We've got about 10.2 million square feet in the city of Lansing committed to this cause. We want to continue to grow that. So again, thinking about the groups that you interact with as far as businesses or different community organizations, and they could benefit from some of the things that I'm covering today, please reach out to them or have them connect with me. Got some information over here because we would love to engage. Again, this is a community-wide effort, and it's going to take a little bit from everyone. Just to spotlight 2 things that we're working on. Primarily, a part of the establishment of the district is to help promote programming, to highlight other resources that are in the community. The Michigan State Industrial Training and Assessment Center has free energy assessments for commercial buildings and industrial centers, and they are currently running a program that has free energy assessments for K-12 schools. And not only do you get that free energy assessment, there's hands-on training available for Michigan State students. And for the smaller program, there's hands-on training for LCC and high school students as well. So really, it's a benefit to the organization against the assessment, as well as the training for the students. The other piece that we're working on with our partners at the Board of Water and Light is a small pilot energy benchmarking program, meaning that they incentivize some of their account holders to work with us to energy benchmark. And then we will measure their energy for a year. We'd like to pilot that so we can learn, so that we can grow that program and expand it, gather some funding so that we can start to offer that to the larger community so that we can incentivize people to actually energy benchmark. Because again, if you don't know where your energy use is at, you don't necessarily know how you can reduce it, saving energy, saving money, saving carbon emissions. I mentioned a couple of the tools and resources, and educational pieces that we have available already. If you type in Nancy 2030 district in YouTube, you'll see that there's a set of playlists already available for some educational work that we've already done. One session was focused on rebates and incentives. Another was energy savings 101. What does that even mean? Again, shameless plug for automated benchmarking services. If you want to do that, but you just don't have time, can't even think about it, let's talk about it. We can help you get that set up. And also, my parent organization, the Michigan Green Building Collaborative, has a page full of case studies. So if you want to work on a project, if you don't even know where to begin, it's a great place for you to investigate what has another group done, or this is a really cool project, or I want to learn more about solar, I want to learn about what's happening inside the network. You can look for that. If you want connection, with a building owner or a developer, or just to talk about case study, that's a great resource for you to use. If you book the QR code and take you to the resources, and there's just a ton there. Also, it can be really overwhelming, so I'm here to help guide you. So just connect with me if you want to learn more. I'm happy to set up a one-on-one conversation. That's literally part of my job, and so I'm happy to hold your hand throughout the journey. Just if you are interested in learning more, have a chat with me, or check out the links to 23rd District online. Go ahead and sign up. There's a couple different categories. I know a lot of folks in here might not necessarily fall into professional community or professional stakeholders. That's okay. We have partners who focus on residential. We're really happy to be working alongside Vera, GL, to we can get you connected, and so again, everyone is welcome. Essentially, we want to just support anybody who's interested in making progress. As I mentioned quickly, we've got 10.2 million square feet in the city of Lansing committed to the 23rd district. We've got over 200 buildings and 28 different stakeholders. So we're gaining momentum, and we want to help keep that going. And we're hoping to start doing some more in-person events, lunch and learns, different panels perhaps. There will be some more energy benchmarking information coming out through webinars. And so we really want to be a resource hub essentially for all your questions. And then that's the information about me, and please feel free to find me and ask any questions you so desire. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for your this.
As Marshall and Audrey hinted at, I am Morgan Felposh. I am the Environmental Sustainability Director for Ingham County. It's a pretty new position, so bear with me here. So I just wanted to talk today a little bit about what our office is. It is a new office, so I think it's important to get out in the community and tell people about what we do and what projects we're working on. And this is part of our efforts with the Solarize events and the new countywide approach that we're really excited to be a part of. So essentially, our office is responsible for the development of a sustainability action plan, which I have 2 full slides about that I'll talk about in just a second. But we're also responsible for coordinating climate sustainability, materials management, recycling initiatives. And then some of our guiding principles include environmental justice, transparency, equity, resiliency, and engagement. So I think it's always a good thing to put things into context about how something got to where it is. So Ingham County has a really long-standing history of environmental initiatives and climate initiatives, but I'm gonna start with 2020 because it would take me several slides to go through the rest of it. So in 2020, Ingham County declared a climate emergency. This resolution essentially did what it says, which is declaring that emergency, but it made a recognition that the county has a role to play in the climate change crisis. The next thing that they did in 2021 is reestablish their Environmental Affairs Commission. The commission previously existed, but it ceased to meet for a little while there, back in 2010-ish. And so they reestablished that commission to really kind of develop these efforts further at the county and formalize that process. They then passed a declaration of a commitment to climate justice, and this resolution did a lot of things, but the one thing I want to highlight for the purposes of this conversation today is that is where the county's net zero carbon emissions by 2040 goal came in. After that, they completed an energy audit of their county facilities. This included 16 facilities throughout the county. It was a massive undertaking, and they realized that takes a lot of work to do. And so with that, they also created and filled the first dedicated position for sustainability, which is my position at the county. And then once they've done that, we started working on the development of our county sustainability action plan, which again, I'll talk about a few slides from now really in depth. And then here in 2024, just last year, the very tail end of it, we established our Office of Sustainability to carry out this work. So I just want to highlight a couple of the high-level projects to give you an idea of what we do. We do a lot of strategic planning in our office. We do a sustainability action plan. We're also working on a materials management plan. And then in terms of energy management, that's another sector we spend a lot of time in. So we do a lot of county facility energy benchmarking. I think Audrey mentioned a lot about that, so I'm not sure I need to go into that. We also do implementation of our energy audit that I previously mentioned. So where energy efficiency improvements could be made, and how can we plan them, and what have we implemented? And then finally, we also participate in the Lansing 2030 district and the advisory board for that. So as far as the sustainability action plan as promised, so this is kind of outlines the project purpose and goals, but essentially the goals on a high level are to help the community write a plan for the county that's going to make the county identify what it means to be sustainable, what the county should do to be sustainable. And this is going to cover both our county operations and the county as a community. So it's thinking like two-pronged type approach. And some of the high-level focus areas that we're looking at just based on the county's existing goals, these will be adapted over time based on a lot of input from a lot of people, are to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which directly relates to the county's net zero carbon emissions goals, and to strengthen climate resilience and advance environmental justice. Again, these initial goals are based on the county's prior commitments and expressed interests. The project timeline, we started this project in 2023-ish and did preparational work in 2024. In 2025, we really kicked off development earlier in this year. And I'll talk about the steps for what that means in just a second. And then our goal is to finish this plan and have it adopted in 2026. So as far as the development steps and timeline, there's like 7 steps here and they're kind of a lot. But we're going to be looking at, we already looked at a kickoff and just general project management stuff. We're looking at community and stakeholder engagement. We're looking at a greenhouse gas emissions inventory assessment, which will cover again both the whole community and the county operations. We're looking at completing a vulnerability assessment, so who's going to be impacted by climate change and how in our community. We're looking at developing vision, goals, and objectives based on all the previous tasks. And then we're looking at implementing and monitoring of those goals and objectives. How are we going to do this long term? And then finally, that's where the full plan kind of comes together and a draft comes out. Then we go into the adoption, your typical kind of strategic plan kind of stuff. So where we're at right now is we're working on the phase 1 and phase 2 of our community engagement efforts, which I have lots of information at my table if you want to visit me at some point, and I'll talk about that in just a second a little bit more. And then we are also nearly halfway through our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. The county has a lot of buildings and a lot of information to get through, so it's taken quite a bit of time. And we are very happy with the support we've received in doing that from the city of Lansing and some of our other local municipalities, City of East Lansing. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we're doing a lot of stakeholder engagement. So in This is really important again, because we're trying to get it to where the community can help us write this plan. We don't want to write a plan that's just going to sit on a shelf. We want to know what is happening in the community, what's important to the community in this regard. And so we have about 3 efforts right now in our phase 1 of this that you can do today, or in the coming days, I guess, to help us with that, or if you're interested in doing so. So you can take our standing community survey that's available from now until December 15th. It's a 5 to 10 minute survey, and there is a link up there, but I also have a QR code at the table, and there's a QR code at the end of the slides presentation here too. The other thing you can do is sign up for announcements and notifications about the planning process. So we'll have like event announcements that we're going to be sharing, whether they're county hosted events, we're planning to do a couple of those, or if they're events like this that we're participating in and will be out in the public app. The other thing that you can do is, again, attend those events and share your feedback. We haven't quite published those, we're still a little early on in the process, but those will be available on our website here within the next month. And again, there's a QR code at the end of the slides. This looks like it cut off a little bit. All right, so one thing I like to do when I talk to large groups of people like this is kind of highlight our accomplishments too, prove that we have done some great things already. So some of our grant awards that we received is a community enhancement grant. This is from the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. That's actually what's helping us write this sustainability action plan. A materials management planning grant, that's what's helping us write our materials management plan. That's again for like waste management, recycling, solid waste, those types of things. And then our community energy management grant, that's helping us do energy efficiency improvements throughout county buildings. Right now we're focusing on some at our Forest Community Health Center, doing some lighting upgrades there. And then finally, 2 other things that we've done in the last couple of years here is we participate in the Michigan Healthy Climate Fellows Program. So we get a full-time staff member in our office that was previously an AmeriCorps member and is now a state of Michigan member. And they are helping us again with that sustainability action plan as well as some other initiatives. And then we have also achieved the Michigan Green Community Silver Level Award for the last 3 years in a row. And then this is the QR code I promised. So here you can visit our website and you could go to any of those opportunities that I mentioned previously. And then my contact information is up there as well. And as I mentioned before, I have a bunch of flyers and literatures and things available at the desk over here. So, and I'd like to thank Marshall again for inviting me to participate today.
I apologize, I've been a bad host. The restrooms, male, men and women are right there in the little hall, so if anybody needs to use the restroom, it's right there for you. Apologize.
All right, let's get to the solar stuff, huh? All right, and thank you for, obviously all the great work that they're doing in the church and everyone here, we're excited to have you. And we thank you for letting us, talk to you tonight. So my name is Adam. I work with Absolute Solar. We are going to be the contractors that would be helping you, the church, business, school, you name it, put solar onto your facility. This is my house here. You can see I have some panels on my home. I live in the Groesbeck neighborhood, not too far from you, so I can kind of talk to you about my VWL bills and kind of what's happened since I've had it installed since late 2022. I can talk more about our company because we found it. You can just go through those and we'll just leave them out. But and again, you'll have the slideshow. I mean, you probably can't see all this, but go back one more page, but so basically, we met at MSU. Our owners, the founders of our company, we met at MSU in 2016, and they were both studying environmental law, and they were trying to fix the monopoly of the system, essentially, with consumers, DT, the whole thing. So they were looking at it from a global perspective, trying to figure out how to change policies and things like that. They figured out it's going to be a pretty long approach to get real changes implemented over time, and that's kind of how this company was formed. They wanted to create more of a grassroots movement to kind of go from the ground up as opposed to top down. So we founded it in 2016. We're still locally owned and operated right here in Lansing, Michigan, where our office is on the corner of Jolly and Dunkel by the post office there down south of MSU. Licensed and insured. We have master electricians on staff. Some of you in the room have actually, I know a couple of you You've installed solar with us, so you've kind of seen how this all works. But it's just a beautiful thing to know. You want to know the contractors that you're working with are licensed, they are insured, they have electricians on staff, they know what they're doing, they're locally owned, they're here they're here for the long haul. And that's a big part of what we do. We have a turnkey installation approach. We want to try to be there from the start to the very end of the whole process. Be there with you, schedule all the permits on your behalf. You guys don't have to lift a finger. It makes it really, painless for you guys. And obviously we handle the interconnections that we'll have to do within the utility company, whether or not you are on BWL's grid, consumers. I don't think many of you here would be on DTEs, but in case you are, or any other ones, I know like in Portland, like Tri-County, there's other utility companies out there. We'll handle the interconnection application process as well. That's all kind of part of what we do. And a big thing that we do after the work is complete is that we're going to be monitoring the system's performance, and we can offer any type of service after that product has been installed. That's kind of a rare thing in the business. Unfortunately, a lot of solar companies and contractors are kind of fly by night, so they don't stick around in the long haul if there is ever an issue. The goal, of course, is for the system to be maintenance free because that's the design. But if there ever is something that goes wrong, we want to be there for you in that event. So that's a big part of what we do. Yep. So a lot of you have probably heard about the big beautiful bill that reluctantly passed recently. So I wanted to talk to you guys just generally about what's going on in the future of solar tax credits, because that's going to affect everyone in the room eventually, right? So what it means, as of right now, we're still at a 30% federal tax credit for residentials, commercials, nonprofits, all of the entities that you can think of. At the end of this year, at December 31st, 2025, is when residential homeowners are going to, the tax credit, the 30% tax credit is going to go away. So what we're going to be trying to do is for this group to get as many people involved as possible, and also try to get your installation done prior to that completion date as well. We may have to hire trusted third parties just because the influx of what we've been getting into, as you can probably imagine, a local company that everyone wants it kind of all at one moment. That becomes a pretty big supply and demand. So we may have to find third parties to help us with just the installation portion. It's not going to affect warranties, guarantees. We're going to find people that we trust, obviously, to be on your roof and install panels if need be. But that's something that we want to make sure that we can help as many people out, capture these incentives that are homeowners as possible. And for commercial businesses and nonprofits, you have a little bit more time on the way these tax credits are going to roll out. It's still a 30% credit, and if you are a nonprofit like a church, it's not a tax credit, it's a direct pay incentive that you're able to receive. So it's still that 30% incentive, but it's something that is not a taxable thing, but it's basically almost like a rebate, if you will, once the project has been completed. And that is something that we can help you facilitate. We know people in organizations similar to what they are that work specifically with churches and nonprofits to help capture those direct pay incentives for those folks that are in those entities. So I'll be able to help out in that event. So the way that that's going to work for the future is basically, we want to make sure that your construction can happen in a timely manner. And of course, with the Solarize program, the way that we have designed it and the way that it works, I'll talk about like kind of the timelines in the next couple of slides, but that's kind of a big part of it, is that the residential side of it is going to be one kind of group purchasing discount option, and then the commercial nonprofits is going to be a secondary one, because we know that it takes a little bit longer for nonprofit entities like churches to kind of make decisions on pursuing projects like this. There's got to be committee hearings, little things like that. It's not a quick homeowner making a decision. It's a lot of people making a big decision for something like a church. So we know that the timeline is going to be a little bit different on those. So that's why there is more time on the incentive to be captured too. So that's a really good thing for any type of commercial entity. So that'll be the way it works technically as it's written right now, is that the construction must begin within a year of when the law was passed, which was July 4th of this year, or it has to be placed in service by the end of 2027. So we're waiting on Treasury guidelines to kind of determine exactly what that's going to mean. But as long as we know we can get you in before the 4th of July next year, which would be no problem, that's where we're at with the tax credit. So you shouldn't have any issues with that. So how it works for like utility bills and the rebates and things like that, that's a big part of how this all works for when we go to interconnect your system and turn it on and get you guys saving money on your electric bills in perpetuity. Really, the way it works is through the utility company. They have what's called distributed generation, called DG for short. Basically, it allows you to Anytime your solar system is producing more energy than the building needs, basically it gets sent out to the grid automatically and you get credited for that. And what happens now is you get credited a certain rate structure based on everyone's rates are going to be different because people are on time of use, some people have senior rates, some rate schedules are different, but you do get credited for the excess energy that your solar system is generating. And so that's going to happen automatically with your system. It's a bidirectional meter that becomes part of your solar system. It's connected to the grid and to the electric side of the meter. So you will actually have, you won't have to do any calculations or anything, but that's something that they do within the utility. They do give you credits and it does apply to your entire bill. You are able to offset up to 110% of what you're annually consuming electrically. So if you had a 10,000 kilowatt hours that you consumed over the last 12 months, you'd be able to offset 110% of that value going into that. And for BWL customers, they're still offering a rebate for going solar. So it's up to $2,000, which is great. It's basically $500 per kilowatt that you install, and it goes up to 4. So if you had a 2 kilowatt system, like a smaller solar system, then you'd still be able to get $1,000 rebate. But it goes up to 4, which is a $2,000 rebate check that they just send you once the system has gotten approval to operate. So, like any long-term investment strategy, you got to figure out your finances, and those are big parts of why we want to make sure you have enough time to make these decisions. Of course, if you wanted to pay cash for it, that's a fantastic approach. Cash is king if you got it. HELOCs, home improvement loans, those are all options, of course, for you to pursue any type of project like this, because we know this is a sizable investment, but it is meant for the long haul. Now, you can also finance through a company, a nonprofit entity called Michigan Saves. That's actually how I put solar on my house because I'm still paying off student loans. So I didn't have a bunch of money just saved up. I had to get a loan for solar to be able to save money on my energy costs. And so Michigan Saves is fantastic because they're the nation's first actually nonprofit green bank. They work with a lot of different type of renewable energy projects for solar, batteries, EVs. They do stuff for not even renewable energy, but like roofing, shingles, siding, windows, other contractors they work with. And it's a it's about a 3-year vetting program that they have for you to be eligible to be a part of the Michigan Saves program as well. So that those types of contractors that are in there for those types of reasons are vetted and going to be there for you. So that's something that you can work with. And of course, there's a link going to be in here too. So if you wanted to check that out, if you wanted to pursue getting solar or at least getting a free quote, which is what we're able to do, you can also go on the Michigan Saves website and kind of see what a financing option would look like for you through the lenders. It's a lot of different credit unions to work with. So when we're installing solar, all of our systems are going to be a grid-tied, grid-connected system. And what that essentially means is what I was talking about earlier with the utility company. We have to connect it to the grid because when your solar system is installed, you basically have 2 sources of power for your home. The grid, of course, and the solar system. So it becomes 2 points of entry for the energy to come into the house. Obviously, as the sun is shining onto the panels, that energy can go towards the inverter, which is a component of the solar system that helps convert the energy into powering the house and the lights and everything in it. And then you can store that energy into a battery if you want it. You don't have to do batteries, but that's an option to connect the solar system into storage for batteries. Or you can have it, the most common approach is just putting the solar system in and then having any excess energy go out towards the grid for that distributed generation, that credit. You can do both. And we do that regularly. So any of that comes together, and that's something that's just pretty cut and dry, but we handle all of that for you. So it's just a cool little way to look at it. So these are just some of the examples, and again, you probably can't see it. I tried to put it all on one slide to make it easy, but a lot of different types of solar systems that we've installed over time. This one obviously is a residential building in Lansing we did. This was a ground mount we did in Mason. This was a church we did a couple years ago. This is an Aldi that we did last year, and then these are actually 2 different churches that we did. You can probably see a little bit of MSU campus back here, but that's kind of what we've done for some of the churches, the Islamic Center, the University Lutheran. There's a couple of installations we've done for them at this point, but it's just good to see some of the stuff that we've done in the area. And I think Marshall had, or other people had put in some slides for other systems that we installed. Yeah, as well. So these are just other residential homes that have solar systems on them as well. And yeah, we can have whoever it is talk about them as well. You want to come up?
Yep.
Real quick?
He's going to do his couple slides.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I'll be able to answer some more questions in a little bit.
Okay, thank you. I graduated, or not graduated, retired from MSU in 2013. And I was recruited by University of Lutheran Church to be the facility manager / handyman. And I had a long interest in energy conservation. So the first thing I did was take a look around, what could I do? And I looked up, we had 1,200 fluorescent tubes that were burning out on a pretty regular basis. So I said, that is something that we can do to cut our carbon footprint, reduce our carbon footprint. Got the ladder out, got up there, started taking them down, spent the day doing it. I spent a week on the couch. But I kept coming back, and it took 5 years to do that, to replace 1,200 fluorescents with 800 LED bulbs. I could see the electric bill going down, but I didn't have a good feel for that. What do you think happened? I calculated what our annual usage was, electricity, before I started that. 5 years later, what it was after we had 800 LED bulbs. Reduced by 30%. You get a rebate when you put LED, or at least you used to, from Consumers Energy. So the payback was a year or less. So it's kind of a no-brainer to pick the low-hanging fruit and do as much of that as you can before getting into, I'm not trying to discount this, but I'm coming to this, before you get into larger projects. So once we did that, then we started looking at renewable energy to reduce the footprint, carbon footprint. And we started, I was doing some learning on this, so now we are in 2019. Started in 2013 with the LED. Looked on the internet and got a good feel for it, and convinced the council at the church, saying, yeah, this is something that maybe we should consider. So I thought, well, why don't I have them look at the house at the same time? So they looked at our house and calculated out what it would cost, what we would produce. 2 weeks later, they were on the roof installing solar panels. My electric bill last month from Consumers Energy, $5.03. So it's been a very good decision that I made. I did get at that point, a 26% rebate for that. Yep, okay, so now we're on the church at the same time, in 2020 was working on that, and we got the agreement to install a 19 kilowatt unit on the flat roof of the house, of the church. We did fundraising to pay for half of that. And then we have neighbors at the Islamic Center that use our parking lot for Friday prayers. And they heard that we were doing this, and they contributed half to the payment. So that's how we paid for that. There wasn't any rebate, there wasn't any for nonprofits at that point. Next slide. 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act that we've heard some mention of gives a 30% rebate for nonprofits. That was the first time that nonprofits could get a rebate. So we put a ground mount unit in, a 20 kilowatt. And that reduced our energy bill by 25%. The rooftop reduced our energy bill by 25%. I talked about the LED. So if we looked at what we were paying for electricity in 2014, 2015, versus what we're paying for once we got this working, over 70% reduction in our electric bill.
Show me the money. How much money are you saving per year now versus prior? That's what these folks need to know, the money they're saving a year.
Yeah.
Can you do that in your head?
Well, I can tell you, our payback on this is 10 years.
Yeah, then after that, let's project for that.
Well, after that, the electricity is free.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
You live in East Lansing, sir?
I live in Okemos.
Okay, okay. I was going to say, when I put solar panels for heat on my house in 85, 86, the moment they were done, the lady from the East Lansing, whatever it is, department, came right to my house and she was standing there with her nasty little clipboard, writing down how much, you know, how much money I had spent or how much she figured my house was worth more, so they can hit me with property taxes. And do they hit you with a property tax increase for solarizing? Because that seems to be the problem there. Because if you get power from the board of, well, I guess East Lansing rips you off for power from the board of water and light until the court is coming out against that. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to rip you off for putting solar panels up.
Well,
I mean, you don't have to pay property taxes on electricity from the board of water and light, but do I have to pay property taxes when I put solar photovoltaics on my house?
I do not believe that you do.
No. Legally, you can't, it can't happen, until you go to sell your.
Assessment.
Yeah.
And of course, churches don't pay property tax.
Well, I
And-
do.
And for
It wouldn't go up.
not for residential, they cannot tax the solar panels. Okay, so in addition to what we've done at the church, we've also been active in the Lansing area, Michigan, IPL, the Power and Light
Interface power.
group. There we go. We have the leader of that sitting back there from Hessel Community Church. And that has been active in a number of projects. This is one of all that you'll recognize, David. This is down on West Holmes, the South Side Community Coalition. So this group of about 15 local churches as part of their mission is to reduce the carbon footprint and help communities. So we went down there to see what we could do to help them. They have a lot of activities for children. They have adult activities. You'll see a greenhouse just off to the side there, so they grow some produce for the community. So you can't see it, but we funded this community churches, 15 or so churches in the area, funded solar on top of that church. We're not done, just have one slide. What we did then was move down the street just to the west a little bit and up on Avalon Street. The Ingham County Land Bank had got a property there and they wanted to build a house within the community. And they wanted a low, high energy efficient house. And in collaboration with the capital area group of Michigan Interfaith Power and Light, we helped fund some solar panels on that roof. So it's to give examples in the community of what can be done with solar. Each of these activities that I've talked about in terms of the solar, it was Absolute Solar was the partner that we worked with to get this installed. We've been very pleased with them. I've been very satisfied with the types of projects that we've done. I don't think there's anything that I could think of that we would have done different, except one thing. I should have put more panels on the house and bought electric power.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll get a little bit more into how it's gonna work for the Solarize groups for you guys here. Like I was saying initially, we are gonna be offering two groups for the discounts. Basically, one of them is gonna be for homeowners, and the other one's gonna be for any commercial business, nonprofit entity, so they can each have their own pool to be getting discounts from. And the way the Solarize discount works, kind of like Marshall indicated, it's essentially the more the people buy in, the better the pricing is for everyone, and it's an economy of scale. So it's gonna start at each group is basically gonna get a 5% discount from the market rate for just being part of the group getting a quote, or 5% off automatically. And then once we get more than 5 signatures for each group, basically every additional signature after that becomes an additional percentage off that you will get on your total cost of the solar portion of the total price. So it's gonna cap at 15%, which is pretty massive this day and age, but it's gonna be up to 15% for the solar portion of your contract. So that'll be determined once we get to the deadline, and each group, like I was saying, is gonna have a different deadline because of the way that that's structured. And then, of course, then once you have your discounts finalized, well, and then once the system's installed and everything else, you'll also be able to apply that federal tax credit or direct pay incentive for nonprofits, and altogether that can get you up to almost 50% off. It's 45% of the total project cost that can be reduced, which is a massive, massive savings. So for the first group, the residential homeowners, the way that we're going to do it, obviously we have the meeting tonight. What we're going to have at the end of this is another QR code. Guys gotta love QR codes at this point. If you want to get a quote from us, we're going to give that to you for free. We're going to come out and do a site visit on your property or your church, and we're going to just assess what we can do, what your goals are, and figure that out. Let us know within a week of today, or one full week, I guess, August 1st is next Friday. And then from there, you're going to have 2 weeks to we're going to put all of our ducks in a row, get our quotes together for you, so you can look at that, and we'll get that out to you mid-August. A couple weeks to review it, check with financing, how you want to go about doing it, and ask any questions to myself or anyone else in our team. If you have anything specific, we can go over with any upgrades, any specific requirements you'd like to look into. And of course, the deadline for the residential group 1 is going to be the end of August, 8/29/25. And I put a little asterisk here because it may be extended depending on how many people are in this group that want to get quotes, but that's what we're looking at right now is the deadline for that. And then of course, we'll finalize that group and then we'll get you guys going here. And then the commercial one is the second group. It's going to basically be the same idea. It's just going to be a longer time frame, so you have more time to make those decisions. Of course, let us know within 2 weeks if you want to get a quote. We're going to give you that same 2 weeks to get the quote, so you have enough time to at least see the numbers and look at all of that. And then we're going to put 10 weeks on reviewing it. We know you have committee hearings, budget meetings, things like that. They're going to be really important for you guys to look into. Give you enough time for that. And then the deadline for the commercial nonprofit group is going to be November 1st. And again, that may be extended depending on where we're at with the participation. But that's what we're looking at. So you have a handful of months to make sure that you have enough time to make those decisions for your organization. And then, once we get that final deadline, all of the final discounts will be updated once, and you can sign on anytime. And of course, once we get to the deadline, everyone's contract will just be updated to get you that better deal towards the end of that. And so really the next step is for anybody who does want to get a free quote and look into this, get a site visit scheduled, we just really need your electric bill, because that tells us all the information on how much energy are you using in your home or your business month by month. Once we know that, we can actually figure out how many panels do you need, what is the quote really going to look like for you, because everyone's house is different, everyone's energy needs are completely different. So, a lot of people come to me all the time and say, what's it going to cost? I'm like, let me see your bill, because I won't know until I actually know how much energy your home is using, and then we can determine how much you want to offset based on your ultimate goals, your financial planning, and we want to make sure we're strategizing that with you. So, we don't want to take you out by going all in on solar. It's not all or nothing. You can start small and you can scale that up. You can do projects in phases, and that's what we do for a lot of folks. Like they were saying for the University of Lutheran Church, those are multiple phases for the solar that we've done for them, because we knew at the time they were trying to budget accordingly to make sure that it fit within kind of that fiscal year. They had a certain amount of allocated funding. If they only thought, we go all in with it, we'd probably still be talking about funding that first project 5 years later. So, we do this stuff in phases for a lot of folks, and we can help you in that way too. So whether it's your home or your business, that's the same kind of approach. We just really need your bill. So once we have that, we can look at the graph data. We can see how many kilowatt hours you're using month by month. On the backside of those bills, it's gonna tell us the rate schedule that you're on. Again, everyone's on different rates, so both sides of the bill is really important. But that's mainly what we need, and then, you know, you can send that email to me, I have the business card over there you can take. As well, so you can reach out to me or Marshall, and we'll be able to get you guys the information you need to take those next steps. And again, that QR code, more QR codes. That's gonna be where you can just go to our website, that'll help you to kind of navigate toward that. My contact info is gonna be right here as well, you can call our phone number, you can go on our website, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know you guys were kind of raising your hands intermittently, but if there is any questions, kind of generally speaking, you know, obviously we want to be mindful of everybody's time. I know you guys have spent a lot of time already being here, but any questions at all, I'm happy to dive in with you.
Can you talk a little bit about the advantages, disadvantages of batteries versus distributed grid?
Sure. So, the batteries have a lot of advantages. The only disadvantage of a battery is they're not cheap. They do cost a fair amount to install and put in your home. And I guess the only other, if you want to think about a disadvantage is that because of that cost, you would think you just get everything out of it. It's not the same as like a generator type system where like a generator is a continuous flow of energy that's going to be constant for potentially the entire load on the building. For batteries, it's similar to like whatever you have in the juice in your phone. Like if you have 10% left, you better not make long phone calls, right? Same kind of idea. That there is a finite amount of energy inside of the battery depending on how you size it. But the positives of the battery is that you can use the battery's energy at night when the sun goes down. Because as the sun is shining on the panels, and if your solar system is producing more than your home needs, instead of sending it out to the grid first, what will happen is it'll get actually stored into a battery, and that'll actually help your return on investment, if you will, because you're getting a better value out of the energy by going into a battery and not getting that distributed generation rate, which usually kind of taxes you by about half of that energy cost. So if you give them a kilowatt hour, you're not getting a full kilowatt hour when you get it back at that rate. But in a battery, all that energy becomes stored, and then you can use that energy at night. So it helps you ultimately just use less of the grid overall. So it's definitely a great thing to do if financially it makes sense for you guys at home.
Adam,
Yeah.
regarding the battery backup, when the power goes out, you don't lose your power because your system switches to your battery. So, and I have a battery backup system. When the power went out, it was out for 48 hours. I didn't know it was out.
Yeah, thank you. And that's another great point. So thank you for bringing that up. And we could probably talk all day about the positives of batteries, but that is one main thing is that when you have a solar system and you have a battery connected to it, when this power does inevitably fail you, hopefully not too often, but if it does, then the battery can kick on it first, you know, and it'll also allow the solar system to remain functioning in that event too. If you have a brownout during the day, that solar system can still help provide energy, because that's the big caveat with solar. A lot of the misclaimers out there is that people think the solar system is going to provide that energy for you if the power goes down, and that's not true unless you have a battery, because that has to island you from the grid. You can't be backfeeding energy to the grid when it's down. It's an electrical code issue. So we want to make sure that everybody knows that going in, that solar system can help in a lot of great ways, but in a power outage event, that battery is going to be another source of power for you. And then if that ever fails too, as a secondary approach, we can still help you out with generator installations as well. Our electricians are certified with Generac, and we can install those, and we just know what Michigan weather is. So, you know, it's not always perfect sun every day. So the generators can help in that event too. And that's something we can also install for you. And we can actually make that all congruent within the solar system and battery. So they all talk to each other.
30% out for batteries.
Yeah, and there's a 30% federal tax credit on the battery installation too. So that's another positive. Yeah.
Adam, could you clarify your understanding of the new law regarding rebates are direct payments to nonprofits? It sounds like the legislation was written in a equivocal or unclear manner that must be started by July of 2026, or be put in service by the end of 2027, and so that's just kind of a fog right now.
Correct. Yeah. So that's our. We're all in the fog together. I wish it was a clear answer, and I wish the government knew what they were doing. But The answer is, that's the answer. We know right now that that's what we're looking at for nonprofits as well as commercial entities. They didn't have any distinction there. That's what I was mentioning earlier about. Hopefully they'll put out some treasury guidelines that really kind of nail these things in the sand so we know where deadlines are really at. But there's two segments there that make it kind of unclear, but also at least gives us a little bit of breathing room for those types of entities to make it so you have a little bit of time. Yeah, either one, yeah.
I was looking at something to try to figure something out for ourselves based on our bill. So I didn't quite catch what you said about what happens if you have photovoltaics and the power goes out and you're hooked up to some back to the grid. Did you say that your solar will not work if the power goes out? If you
don't have a battery, it does, it has to shut down the code.
Even if you have photovoltaics,
Correct.
your power will go out.
Correct. Yeah, because it's a grid tied solar system and the grid is down and we can't electrically feed energy to the grid when it's down. If they have to work on the power lines and such, it's an electrical code issue that is, there's a disconnect switch that automatically does this for you. So you don't have to be home and like pull switches or anything. It automatically, the inverter has the brains of the operation. It will shut down the system automatically if it doesn't sense that there's an islanded battery or generator to help keep the things running.
That's if I have photovoltaics and I can't sell back to the Board of Water and Light, I will lose my power at my electricity anyway if the power goes down because of the electrical code. There's no way to put a switch in to cut me off from that grid connection that would cause my power to fail.
Yeah, we would want to make sure that it is a grid tied system, so you wouldn't be able to like circumvent that in another roundabout way. You can do, we don't install this type of idea that you're looking into where you're doing like a closed loop type system where it's kind of just off the grid entirely. That's not something we do because what we're doing is offsetting the electric side of your energy cost from the bill. And then anything left over in the normal situation when the power's on, obviously you will still get that credit, but it's just in the very small moments when the power's out. And hopefully you don't deal with that too much, but that is.
If I'm making more energy than I need, I want to sell it back to the Board of Water and Light. But if my power goes out, I want to keep it for myself. And I'm saying, so there's no way to have a backup.
You have to have a battery or a generator in a grid tied system. Yeah, you can do portable generators and things like that for cost savings and things. There's options, but it's important to know. That's a big indicator for a lot of folks.
I was wondering if you know if for homeowners, the deadline this year, at the end of this year, does that, I've heard there's sort of sometimes a waiting period between when you get it installed and when the electric company actually.
Yeah, and that's it. Currently, that's what the code has been saying, but that, again, we're waiting treasury guidelines on that as well to see if there is any type of measurements on, can you preemptively get the system to be greenlit or turned on or maybe paid for in the calendar year of 2025 to determine the eligibility. But as it's written, you'd have to have the system placed in service, which is after the fact of installation. You have to have all the greenlets from the inspections and the utility company to grant you the green thumb there to call that approval to operate.
Yeah, how long is that waiting period?
It might be a week, might be two, might be three. I mean, especially coming at the end of this year because it's going to be a pretty huge pull. Hard to say exactly, but those are things that obviously we will be helping you out with to make sure it happens as quick as it can. Yeah.
They allow the closed loop, for example, I want to do a greenhouse or something, small system, do they allow?
I mean, you can do that, and you could do small grid tied solar systems. We do that for a lot of folks where we're just installing a couple of panels, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 panels. Some people's homes need 20, 30, 40, 50 panels, right? My house, it was offsetting as much energy as I need, and it was about 12 panels. Some people's energy needs are more or less. If you're trying to offset just a certain portion of your energy costs, if let's say you have a greenhouse and you want to just offset that, basically what it would be is just a portion of your total would be offset by the grid tied system. It wouldn't be like a closed loop system only for the greenhouse because you still want to have the energy connected to the grid so it offsets everything on the total.
I want all the mass tied with the grid. You see what I mean? It's like-
Yeah, so I mean, we don't install the closed loop type of system where you're just basically putting in like a small solar apparatus to the greenhouse. And the reason why is because there's a lot of electrical work that needs to be done, even if it is a closed loop system. And we want to make sure from a business standpoint, we need to kind of keep our licenses and permits and all that is a really important part of it. So we have to make sure we're doing things kind of by the book. And with off-grid systems, a lot of people kind of do it a little more DIY. And so we want to make sure that it's going to be done electrically up to code. That's why it is a grid tied system for the way that we would do it.
For those churches or community buildings that can afford the battery, they become potential warming centers in case there are outages or a place that people can bring their food and put it in a freezer. It's pretty valuable for the community if you can make it.
100%. And so if everyone didn't hear that, basically he was indicating that, you know, for churches and nonprofits and just any businesses in general, looking at putting in battery storage on top of solar, looking at like warming centers, places for communities to go. It's a beautiful idea. It's a beautiful approach. And that's exactly what I know I talked about just the other day here with Chris at this facility as well. And that's something that we are looking into because we want to help make that a reality for any entity that wants to do it. It really just depends on the electrical infrastructure that the building has on site. Some of them are a little bit more complicated than others. Some buildings are 100 years old and they're still using the same electrical infrastructure. And so those are things that you have to we have to verify with our master electricians to determine if it's going to be possible. But in that event that it is a beautiful idea and another positive on the ways batteries can help the community. Yeah.
So the roof has to be sturdy enough. Put panels on top of it.
Yeah, of course.
And if I put it on there and then how many years go by before the roof has to be replaced?
Yeah, everyone's situation is different for their roof and the longevity of their roof on their home. And so that's why we come out and do the initial site assessment. We'll take a look, we'll take some pictures. If you decide to pursue solar, we have our actual experts get up in the attic, get up on the roof, measure it, check out the integrity. We'll actually get an engineering stamps of approval too, so we can understand that it's structurally sound for solar systems. Most homes are fine, but again, older barns and older infrastructures that weren't really maybe up to code, so to speak, we have to make sure we verify those. So those are things that we would look into. And as far as the age of the roof, you know, if it does need to be replaced over time, that's something that we can help out with, depending on the amount of panels that need to get worked on. It's usually somewhere between like 150 to 250 bucks a panel for us to remove that panel and put it back up once the new roof has been put on. So we can help out with that, and we do for a lot of folks if that's ever needed.
And Michigan Saves you can combine the loan.
Yeah, Michigan Saves can help with roof and solar if you want to get loans for both of those entities. But I think you had a question.
You work with power walls as well, or are you into that product, power wall?
We do not work with power walls at the current moment. I mean, we've gotten quotes for them and looked into them, but the availability is not as readily available. So the products that we would work with are more succinct with either SolarEdge, Enphase, Solar. There's a couple other inverters that are out there that have batteries that are encompassed within the same DNA. So we'll look into that with you. We can customize that based on, you know, everyone's likeness for what they want in their home. So
You guys use a specific solar panel manufacturer?
we have a couple different manufacturers as well, and that's what we're going to have to look into coming into next year with some of the guidelines that are going to be released. But we work with Jinko panels, Silfat panels, REC panels, Meyer Burger. We've done a lot of different panels over the course of time. Back in 2021, when the supply chain became pretty wild with COVID, we had to find a lot of different panel manufacturers based on supply and demand. But yeah, we'll find the ones that are going to be the kind of highest efficiency, the most long term. And those panels nowadays, I mean, they're very solid state. All of the warranties are going to be like either 25 or 30 years. And what they guarantee as far as efficiency goes is usually in the 80 or 90 percentile range for how well they're still going to perform in the 25th or 30th year. So they're really great products. I think someone else had a question over here. No? Sure.
Okay, so you're estimating that after 20 or 30 years, they'll still be operating at 80 to 90% of what they're capable of doing. What is the range of efficiency of the manufacturer of the manufactured stuff that you're using right now? Do you know?
Yeah, that's where it's at. So based on the panel, there's different ranges there, but it's in the 80 to 90% efficiency range in the 25th to 30th year. And in year one, they start at like 98% efficient, and then they kind of have a degradation rate based over time that they
You're at
guarantee.
98% efficiency right now?
98% is what they warranty for their performances. The STC efficiencies, that's a more of a different metric in the solar apparatus. Those are at like 22% of overall efficiency. They can be up to 23 and 24 for some panels that are higher in wattage. But the actual efficiency of what you get out of each panel, like how much watts are available per panel, you're going to get about 98% of the wattage that's available per panel right now in year one, and then that slowly degrades over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Based on what the efficiencies in our Michigan winters, cloudy days, or snow is covering the solar panels.
Sure. Yeah, so we all love our Michigan weather, right? I mean, that's why we all live here, I'm sure. No, we do experience obviously a loss in production when you're in the winter months. And when we do a calculation for your home, your business, your school, your church, we're going to factor all of that into the equation as far as like what is the azimuth of the sun throughout the entire 365 days of the year, and how much production are you going to really realistically get in January comparatively to June and July. It's going to be a difference, right? There's going to be a sharp, dramatic change depending on where your panels are at. It's going to affect it based on how tall are they up in the sky, how are there trees in the way, because obviously the sun's going to be lower in the sky. So it's going to affect that, but we have a software design that actually helps us design that system accurately, and we're factoring in snow loads. You know, that's a thing. You know, soiling, degradation rates within the panels. Pretty much every metric that you can analyze in a solar system, we're putting into our design software, so we can pretty closely, accurately determine what your production is going to be like throughout the course of a year, and that's helping us determine how much electrically we're offsetting for your home, your system on the property.
So what kind of maintenance is involved? Is there any kind of annual maintenance you have to do on the solar panels?
Yeah, so the question was, is there any maintenance involved? And that's a good question. I mean, we do get that a fair amount, and usually the Michigan weather is my response to that. I'm like, just wait for a good wind and rain and you're pretty much set. You know, obviously we didn't really get a really good winter thaw in January like we normally do. So that's sometimes where if the snow is covering those panels for an extended period of time, that's where the only point of contention would be. But there isn't really any maintenance involved. That's the beautiful thing about it. Once it's installed, it's designed to be maintenance free. And once you have it installed, you'll actually have an app on your phone, your computer. You'll be able to see your production in real time and see, oh, what's going on with my system right now. You know, now that I have solar in my own house, I've never appreciated the sunny days more. But that
the entire system, let's say you get a battery, there's just no maintenance.
you'd have nothing to do. Yeah, it's boring. I'm sorry.
That's plus.
Yeah.
The panel is a little flat because your roof is a little flat. The angles.
Yeah, that the pitch of your roof is going to impact the production, right? And the orientation, right? Some panels are not going to be on the south side of a roof. We were actually looking at this church right here just the other day, looking at potentially even putting solar on the north side of the roof because it's actually a really shallow pitch and can get decent production. We're probably not going to do that, but that is an option, right? So sometimes it's the west, sometimes it's the east. Sometimes it's flat roofs that we're working with or ground mounts. But yeah, we want to try to pitch that in a southern facing direction as much as we can if your roof is like that or if you have enough space for a ground mount. But of course, whatever the pitch of your roof is what the angle of the solar panel would be to because it's on that same plane. Yeah.
Okay, I've researched this a lot over the years because like I said, I do have solar panels for heat on my house. I've been interested in it for 40 years and I've been interested someday in doing it photovoltaic. I've even fought with the city about trimming it when they're illegally placed city trees. And I planned all my trees around my own property, so nothing would interfere with it. So I've got a good grasp of a lot of these issues. Like I said, I've done a lot of research and a lot of people have said, don't ever put these things on your roof because you can have all sorts of unexpected roofing problems prop up. A lot of people have suggested you just have some type of vulcanized wood or metal framework set up in your back or side yard put the panels on that, and run a cable over. Have you ever done that? Can you do that? Also, it makes it easier to go out with a push broom and just knock the snow off somewhere, as opposed to climbing up on your roof when you have, a foot or two of snow on.
Yeah, we don't recommend anyone going on their roof to take the snow off of the panels.
Well,
I actually did that this winter, and I don't advise that. So yeah, let me answer your question. I appreciate it because it's a good question. Essentially, if you have the space for a ground mount, it's great because then there you don't, as far as going back to the maintenance question, in 10, 15 years, there might be when you need a new roof, right? So that's an added cost that comes into fruition. What we do with our systems though, is we do have a 10-year roof penetration warranty baked into our quotes. So if there is going to be a problem with your roof long-term, you would know that well before 10 years, right? Because if there's a leak, it's going to happen pretty soon and you'll see that. So we have a 10-year roof penetration warranty inside of our quotes. That's why we go up in the attics, though. We want to look at the rafters, the decking, the spacing, and see the integrity of what's going on up there, because that's an important factor. It was the same thing for me. I was making sure our guys are doing it right when they're on my roof, because that's an important part of our house and safety and everything. But that's something that we do take into consideration. We have it inside of our warranties, and then yeah, if you have the space for a ground mount, that's fantastic. We like to try to do those if you have that. And if not, then we just have to work with what you have available. And of course, we have to go through, as you may well know, we have to go through like the city and the ordinances of all the things about setbacks and how far we have to be from streets and roads, and there's distances you got to be for all of that stuff. So some jurisdictions don't allow ground mounts in the front yard, things like that. So we have to verify all of those things, and it can be restrictive. It's not always that case, but that's where we also have to figure out those things for every homeowner that wants to pursue this. And that's why they're all custom quotes, because they're all gonna be a little bit different.
But you can build off the roof.
When you mean build off the roof?
If I set up a framework or have somebody build a framework to hold these panels in my backyard or side yard, you can put the panels on them and then run a power cable to the house.
Potentially, yes. So we have to figure out what the roof looks like and the structural integrity of everything, that we install on. But yes, if it's a detached structure, we would trench, electrical lines, with ground mounts, you have to do trenching involved with all of that. So that's something that we would do as well. Anything else? These are great questions, you guys. I appreciate y'all.
Do you guys do any bifacial panels, especially with the ground mounted systems?
Yeah, you can. That's usually like on per request. With roofs, it's not advised because you're not really getting any reflective light off of a roof. But you can get bi-directional panels, and it just depends on the distributor and what's available at that time. But yes, the answer is yes. Yeah. What part of the quote? The solar portion. So if you're getting batteries, anything else, that doesn't apply to the discount, but the solar portion is what that Solarize discount is going to be all about. So yeah, the entire solar system is going to be part of the discount, but the battery portion, or if you got an EV charger, or if you did any aesthetic trim that we can do, you don't need to. But again, any upgradable things aren't technically eligible, but anything on the solar portion of the quote will be. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, sure, go for it.
When they calculate the 110% of your energy use.
Yeah.
Is that flexibility in which 12-month period you use?
No, it's the most recent 12 months, and that's the hard line in the sand. BWL, I don't know if anyone's from BWL in this room. I'll speak nicely about them because they are better than others. They have a little bit more of a loose line in the sand, but Consumers and ET has a very hard line in the sand. You cannot go over that 110% metric. The only thing you can do is if you are pursuing like an electric vehicle or any type of added electrical appliance that maybe isn't installed yet, or you're recently going to be purchasing it. The utility companies will allow you like a dedication is what they call it on any extra appliance that is going to be added to your equation, and they can put that in with the interconnection application to say, you're at 110%, I'm going to get an EV. Okay, then they'll give you an extra allotment for more panels, and they have to make that distinction, unfortunately, not us. So that's something that can be where that can help you. But going back to the distributed generation rates, and I can talk to you guys way more about this individually. I know I want to respect everybody's time, but the way it works for the excess generation that you're going to be generating on your solar system, if it's past a certain threshold, like I was saying, you're not getting that full value of that energy when it comes back to you from the grid. So sometimes a smaller solar system is actually advantageous to get a better return on your investment or a quicker return, I should say. A better return is obviously gonna be the biggest system you can install ever, but the quickest return is always gonna be something where you're not overproducing energy too drastically, where you're retaining as much of that value in the real time as you can. And that's something we can custom design for you when we come out there and figure out what we need to do for your guys' home or business, so. Yeah, so I think that should be it. We're gonna wrap things up and again, thank you guys so much for coming out here and I don't know if there's any food left over, it's probably all cold. But you know, feel free and I'll let Chris wrap it up here.